They played pro football in a different day, before huge salaries and hard drugs. They played for the love of the game and of each other.
We loved each other. I used to have trouble using that word to describe such a rousing relationship. Didn't seem manly enough, maybe too gentle. But it was love, the kind of love you feel for a brother, for a sister, for a member of the family. The kind of love that survives disruptions, that endures, that lasts forever. We loved each other, and we still do.
They were the 1966 Green Bay Packers, and they were, in my opinion, the greatest team that ever lived. Not the greatest football team, the greatest team in any sport. The almost perfect blend of individual and collective talent, character, and personality. In the last 30 years as writer and broadcaster, I have observed on the field and off the Yankees of Mantle, Ford, and Berra, the Canadiens of Richard, Beliveau, and Geoffrion, the Celtics of Cousy, Russell, and Havlicek, the Steelers of Bradshaw, Harris, and Swan. Awesome teams, all of them. Athletic dynasties. Certainly on the basis of championships and glory, I would rate them with the Packers or above. But the 1966 Green Bay Packers transcended championships, transcended glory. I have never seen gathered together in sports or in publishing or in television or in any other business a group of men or women so unspoiled, so unified, so prepared, so motivated, so eager to learn and to feel and to achieve. A group so much greater than the sum of its parts. 40 distinct and intriguing human beings. The 1966 Green Bay Packers won the National Football League championship. They beat Dallas in Dallas, the second of 3 consecutive NFL championship games won by the Packers, a feat performed by no team before and by no team since. The 1966 Green Bay Packers then won Super Bowl I, the first Super Bowl game ever played. And the following year, most of them came back and won Super Bowl II. The 1966 Green Bay Packers had everything. They had the ultimate bachelor, Paul Hornung, blonde-haired, green-eyed, peacock handsome, the golden boy from the Golden Dome of Notre Dame, the most explosive scorer in the history of professional football. They had the ultimate family man, Bart Starr, who rose from Alabama, virtue personified, self-effacing and dependable, the most efficient passer in the history of professional football.
What the hell's going on out here? High interference! Interference!
They had the ultimate coach, Vincent Thomas Lombardi, Vince Lombardi, the most feared and respected and successful coach in the history of professional football. They had an offensive tackle, Forrest Gregg, a defensive end, Willie Davis, a linebacker, Ray Nitschke, a fullback, Jimmy Taylor, and a cornerback, Herb Adderley, who, like Starr and Hornung and Coach Lombardi, were elected to the Professional Football Hall of Fame. They also had a defensive tackle, Henry Jordan, and a safety, Willie Wood, who deserved to be elected to the Professional Football Hall of Fame. And they also had Jerry Kramer, number 64, one of the pulling guards in the Green Bay sweep. This simple, sturdy play that executed to perfection became the trademark of the Lombardi offense. Kramer was named in 1970 the outstanding guard in the first 50 years of the National Football League. His block in the dying seconds of the Ice Bowl, the NFL championship game of 1967, led Bart Starr into the end zone and led the Packers into Super Bowl II. Kramer is the only man to win 2 Super Bowls and to write 2 bestsellers. Instant Replay, and almost 2 decades later, Distant Replay. his special story of the 1966 Green Bay Packers grown older. Starr, Davis, Adderley, Gregg, Nitschke, Wood, McGee, magic names. Jerry Kramer joined the Green Bay Packers in 1958, fresh from the University of Idaho.
Aren't I the same flat-belly, whippy-wristed college kid? No, I'm not. Still feel the same inside, but more and more this shell they've given me is showing signs of wear. A little gray at the sideburns, too much stomach. My chest must have slipped.
All of the 1966 Packers have grown older, most of them approaching or passing the age of 50, and many of them have grown larger. To see how they have coped with life after football, with life after the cheers, with real life, with growing up, with assuming responsibilities, Kramer shared meals with them, and memories, and philosophies.
Football's not a natural game, Jerry. It's, to make contact every time in spite of what people think is not overly natural. Even for the big 300-pound lineman, it's something you got to do from the heart and from the soul, and pride gets you to do that.
Kramer chatted in their store with Ruth Ann and Bob Skoronsky, and he shared a dinner and a toast with Dwayne Fry and Olive Fry, the widow of Henry Jordan, the one teammate who had died too young.
I think we all had fun. I think we enjoyed the fact that, hey, we're playing football for, now it's sounding good, the Green Bay Packers, and by golly, there's no better team than the Green Bay Packers. And Coach Lombardi proved that there was no better team than the Green Bay Packers.
Kramer watched his old teammates at work. He went to Fuzzy Thurston's bar, Fuzzy's kind of bar. People on one side and bottles on the other. And he went to Ron Kostelnik's factory, the headquarters for Mainline Industrial Distributors, a company grossing close to $20 million a year.
Are you 100% owner here?
Right.
You're 100% owner.
Right.
Pretty decent, kid. Pretty decent.
Well, from a dumb defensive lineman, you rise from the ashes.
Yeah. Pretty decent. Show me some more.
Okay, let's move.
You a millionaire?
I'm. we still keep things close to our chest. That was close. That almost got me to commit. Okay.
Kramer challenged his old teammates at the card table. A poker game in Texas, a gin game in Minneapolis, head-to-head with Max McGee.
You still play like an Idaho. I like winning, but I don't mind losing. I'm not one of the guys that absolutely hates to lose. I just like to compete. Now I win most of the time.
Kramer went to the Packers Hall of Fame in Green Bay, strolled with Fuzzy Thurston through a recreation of their old locker room, tested skills that had long lay dormant, and skills that had never really flourished, and glanced at the photos and trophies and mementos that brought back vivid memories of magic days and of a question asked long ago.
They asked me what was it like here in Green Bay, and I said it's kind of like Camelot. Let it never be forgot that once upon this spot, for one bright and shining moment, was a place called Camelot. I didn't realize how right I was, how much like it was, like Camelot it really was. One bright and shining moment, it's gone.
Kramer played golf with old teammates, watched them demonstrate a variety of swings, from astonishingly good to just astonishing. Watched them find their way into and out of a world of trouble. Kramer hunted with old teammates, roamed among the 26,000 acres of Tommy Joe Crutcher's Texas farm, a farm seeded with Super Bowl money and set close to the Mexican border, a farm slightly larger than the island of Manhattan. Kramer partied with old teammates, enjoyed entertainment Texas style.
I have a difficult time walking up to one of the guys and saying, I love you, or something in that fashion. But given the opportunity and the sentimental situation, all that stuff starts flowing out.
It wasn't all good times, parties and fun and games. There were some tough moments, some pain as I traveled around, like finding Lionel Aldridge after a mental breakdown, pushing a hamper around the post office, living alone at the Y in a small room. He'd lost everything, including his wife and family. To use his words, he'd gone nuts. As we sat and talked about it, he told me about the third time he'd been hospitalized.
A guy that I was partners with on some projects took me to the hospital without telling me he was taking me there. And I figured out before we got there, because I knew where the hospital was, that that's where we were going, and I didn't want to go. I thought he needed to go. I thought these are really two sick people, he and his wife. I thought they were really quite ill and needed to be hospitalized, so I was going to try and pull a switch on him after we got there and get these people some help. Well, I went, we got into the hospital, and they were checking me in and stuff like that, and I decided I didn't want to stay there, that they needed to be there, so I left. And as I was walking out of the hospital and down the street, I was suddenly surrounded by three cop cars, the county police. And when the cops surrounded me, I figured, well, maybe it's me.
Crisp, updated portraits of old teammates emerged from Jerry Kramer's travels. Bart Starr, waiting for a team to coach in the desert. Ken Bowman, center turned counselor in Wisconsin. Dave Robinson, linebacker turned beer baron in Ohio. Some, like Lionel Aldridge, had struggled, but so many, like Ron Kostelnik, had soared. So many, like Bob Skoronski, had more than measured up after football.
I'm so proud of these guys. They're the embodiment of the American dream. They're living cliches. They're tangible proof that if one aims high enough and works hard enough, he can achieve almost anything.
Perhaps the most impressive portrait that emerged was a close-up of the classic overachiever, the man who had carried the American dream to the extreme, the most successful of all the old Packers in so many ways. Willie Davis, Hall of Fame defensive end, once the captain of the defense, now captain of industry, tycoon, one-man conglomerate.
Worry about all the other things, selling the tickets and doing all that, but don't worry about the service, because we will take care of business.
His father earned 50 cents a day as a laborer during the Depression. His mother raised him. Willie grew up in Texarkana, Arkansas, and he grew up in poverty.
Yes, poverty at its lowest levels.
Now, Willie Davis operates a flourishing beer and wine distributorship in Southern California and owns 5 radio stations scattered across the country.
It's safe to say there was a time in my life when I was driven by a fear of failure. As a football player, I was very determined and in a way very fearful of ever being the one that was somehow pointed out as not having, carried his weight or shared his responsibility. But I think even more away from athletics did I have this fear. I surely had a great concern that I think almost translated into a certain type of fear of not being able to make a successful transition from athletics should I not be prepared to somehow make a meaningful contribution in the business or the corporate world.
Davis sits on the board of several major American corporations. He used to be on the board of MGM United Artists, serving with Cary Grant on one side of him, and on the other, Alexander Haig and Art Linkletter. Davis, discarded by the Cleveland Browns, played 10 years in Green Bay and never missed a game.
Willie Davis didn't get to the top by accident. He taught school while he played for the Cleveland Browns, and he went to school while he played for the Green Bay Packers. He earned his master's degree in business administration at the University of Chicago. He made Dean's List. He paid his dues.
I have several friends that definitely call me a workaholic, and while I don't necessarily take pride in it, I probably am. I would say a 60-hour week is probably the low side for me.
Max McGee puts in long weeks too, wheeling, dealing.
We play loser's deal because when you deal, you get to cheat.
McGee was the unexpected star of Super Bowl I, saving his finest performance for the brightest spotlight. And now he is the financial star of the old Packers, card player, golfer, horse owner. Max doesn't mind working, but he doesn't have to. He helped start Chi-Chi's, the Mexican restaurant chain, and he sold most of his stock a few years ago for somewhere between $10 million and infinity.
I think I was just plain lucky.
Max made his own luck. He was the most gifted natural athlete on the team. He had tremendous hand and eye coordination, and he responded to pressure better than anyone I've ever known. And he was also the best storyteller on the team.
For some reason, if you're a married guy at Green Bay, you go to training camp. Once a week, they let you go home, spend time with your wife. If you're a single guy, well, they lock you up every night. You know, hell, you get to look at these 40 big guys all the time, you kind of get a little squirrely. So one night, Horning and I said, Horning, I know how we can get out of this deal. We're going to get a night out. And Horning said, how's that? And I said, well, it's Lombardi's night to check. So we stay in this little dormitory, and you got your little twin bed on each side. I said, let's push our beds together just before he gets here, and we'll, of course, we didn't have any clothes on, and we'll just put our arms around each other and just see what happens when Vince opens the door. And, you know, so help me God, we got pushed in, and Vince is never late. You know, if it's when the clock goes 11 o'clock, they check my room first because they had a coach on each side of us, you know, with Kramer across the road. That's why they kept all us guys close to the coaching staff. So at 11 o'clock, click goes the key in our door. Vince sticks his head in, and Horning and I have got our arms around each other, buck naked, and Horning's, we're kind of, you know. And if you ever wanted to see a look on somebody's face, that Vince Lombardi looking in there, and here's two of his so-called little stars, arm in arm. I'll tell you one thing, he gave us a couple of nights off.
Did you say anything? The story was that you said, Coach, can now go have a night out or something?
Well, I said, yeah. But I'll tell you, you know, the strange thing was, though, that Horning enjoyed it so much I had to move out.
Let's not pass this by.
I'd like to be able to cradle that baby.
That's Super Bowl I. The first Super Bowl trophy.
Yep.
In the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum.
I don't know who won the 5th one or the 8th one or the 12th one. And not many people will remember. But they'll never forget that one.
Neither will I.
Nope, neither will I.
Neither will I.
In Super Bowl I, Fred Fuzzy Thurston was Jerry Kramer's running mate at guard, number 63. There are two good reasons the Packers are world champions, Fuzzy used to say. Jerry Kramer is one of them, and you're looking at the other. Fuzzy Thurston is a gutsy, gusty barrel of a man, filled with energy, enthusiasm, pride. 3 teams discarded him in one season before he became a Green Bay Packer, but Fuzzy never quit on himself. He won't quit on himself now either, not after suffering through bankruptcy, which wiped out a multi-million-dollar restaurant business, not after suffering through cancer, which cost him his larynx. Fuzzy has fought back. With the help of his wife, Sue, and his family, son Griff for one, Fuzzy has opened a series of saloons in and around Green Bay, and he has taught himself, slowly and painfully, to speak again.
I have a beautiful family. I have a lot of blessings with all my minuses. I wouldn't trade my life for anybody's. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
I got a granddaughter now. Unbelievable. She looked just like me when I was a baby.
Fuzzy is the same on the golf course. He demands 3 strokes aside for cancer, but he doesn't ask for sympathy. He is a very special human being.
Never learned how to quit.
And I haven't been a complete failure. Because if you got friends, you always got success.
Fuzz, let's pretend for a minute that I'm a rookie on the opening day of training camp, and you're Vince Lombardi. You stand up here and...
Oh, I'll give that a shot. It may not be easy, but I'll give it a shot.
I know it's not going to be easy, but give me just a little indoctrination into the Packer legend, the Packer way of life, the Packer attitude.
Gentlemen, welcome to Green Bay. This is what football is all about. The Green Bay Packers. You are the privileged few that have been chosen, maybe, to wear the greatest colors of football, the green and gold of the Green Bay Packers. We will expect from you 100% total dedication for the Green Bay Packers. I not only will ask it, I will get it. If I don't, you won't be here. I welcome all of you. Now let's get to work.
Let's go. Let's go. That was a hell of a thing, wasn't it? You remember the first one, the first time, and the excitement, the electricity in that room, the emotion?
The most emotional man I ever knew in my life. You can cry, laugh, be happy. You got it all.
You had me crying and laughing and happy and unhappy, too.
They ran together on the field and off, Kramer and Thurston, and over the years they have seen each other often. But Kramer's travels for distant replay also gave him a chance to see teammates that he had temporarily drifted away from. He went to Louisville to see Paul Hornung, whose Packer career had ended with Super Bowl I. Paul is no longer a bachelor. He is married, settled down, a broadcaster for TBS.
Paul was always my hero. In fact, he was everybody's hero. Paul told me his epitaph should be, he went through life on scholarship.
Bob Brown was a 26-year-old rookie in Super Bowl I. Kramer caught up to him in West Memphis, Arkansas.
Bob Brown now weighs more than 400 pounds, and we went fishing together in a 14-foot metal boat. The most exciting part of the day was when we switched ends.
Kramer also visited Doug Hart, once a defensive back.
Doug succeeded me as host of Packorama, a weekly television show in Green Bay. I used to call him Little Brother. Now he's a big man in a vital business.
I am the President and Chief Operating Officer of Satellite Industries Incorporated. We're the world's largest supplier of portable restaurants.
Kramer also visited Ray Nitschke, once the most menacing of middle linebackers, now a spokesman for Miller Lite.
I still wince when I think of Ray. When I see him, I expect that any second he's going to whack me with a forearm. But Ray is mellowed. He even gets scared sometimes.
What does this creature look like?
The finest measure of the Packers' success as a team and as individuals may be that they rose from so little to become so much. Until they came together in Green Bay under Lombardi, they didn't know what special people they were. Most of them had experienced very little success or glory in football or in life.
My father was killed in an automobile accident. My mother never remarried, and then she died when I was 13 years old.
You know, I was a poor kid from the north side of Pittsburgh. My parents were divorced when I was real young. I spent some time in an orphanage.
Well, I was raised without my father. I was raised by my grandparents. I didn't meet my father until I was in my 30s.
So I really didn't have any home life or any really love and affection at home. And kind of was pretty tough learning it on the street because you didn't get too much, especially the streets of Chicago.
There was three great things that happened in my lifetime. One was going to Notre Dame, meeting my wife, and having the opportunity to play with the Green Bay Packers.
Almost a dozen of my teammates had lost their fathers by the time they reached their teens, to death or drunkenness or divorce. More than a dozen had fathers who labored in coal mines or in steel mills or on tenant farms and assembly lines. Harsh work that their sons wanted desperately to avoid.
You either went into the steel mills or you went into coal mines. I was too damn big for the coal mines, so, you know, I was left, I couldn't bend over enough, so I was destined for the steel mills, I think.
Not one of us in the starting lineup for Super Bowl I had ever played on a college team that won the national championship. Only one of us, Dave Robinson, who wore number 80 at Penn State, was a first-string All-American in college. Only Robbie and Herb Adderley from Michigan State were first-round draft choices, blue-chip professional prospects. Most of us had football credentials that had to be exaggerated to be considered modest. Elijah Pitts came from Philander Smith, a college not one of his teammates had ever heard of. Willie Davis was only the second man from Grambling College to play professional football. Fuzzy was the first from Valparaiso. Marv Fleming wasn't drafted until the 11th round, Pitts till the 13th, Starr and Davis till the 17th, and Willie Wood wasn't drafted at all.
Coach Lombardi took the unsung and the unknown, and he turned us into champions, into heroes. He taught us about the beauty of teamwork. He drove us to work together, to respect each other, to sacrifice the individual goals for the common good of the team. He taught us never to quit, to be prepared. He taught us to execute, and he taught us to win.
Do you think about him a lot?
Every day. And I love my father, who is also deceased, but I don't think about my father every day.
As long as I live, I'll never forget that raspy voice saying, "You don't do things right once in a while, you do them right all the time."
If one man was most responsible for the success of the 1966 Green Bay Packers, on the field and off, it was Vince Lombardi. Short, squat, tough, tender, a former school teacher from Brooklyn, he took a team that had won only one game the previous year and had lost 10.
When he made his opening speech, his first year at Green Bay, he said, made it quite well known that if you didn't want to play winning football, you could get up and walk out of that room and you could go to any team you wanted to and you could hear a pin drop. And I said, Vince has got everybody right now.
One of his first speeches was say, "Gentlemen, if there's anyone here that doesn't like blacks, Jews, Italians, Greeks, I would appreciate it if he would come up to my office or just leave now." He said, "We will not tolerate that in Green Bay." He said, "There's only one type of person here, and that's Green Bay Packers." And he said, "There are only three things, gentlemen, and you guys know what I'm going to say. Your family, God, Green Bay Packers." Not necessarily in that order.
He didn't evaluate black, white, tall, short, big, small, medium. He evaluated what you did on Sunday afternoon between 1 and 4. Vincent Thomas Lombardi, coach.
And teacher.
And teacher.
A good teacher puts across what he must put across to his pupils. You have to get them to be a part of it. They have to understand. If they understand, they'll do it, and do it the right way.
Coach Lombardi was a teacher. He was a motivator, which is one of his greatest assets. He was a psychiatrist, a psychologist all in one. And by that I mean he could recognize the individual differences in people and treat them as such. Whereas Tom Landry in Dallas, I mean, he'd take a group of folks and he'd treat the entire group. You know, like a bunch of cattle, you go take everybody to the well and let them all drink at the same time. But it doesn't work that way.
He was a motivator of people. You know, he could have had you running up San Juan Hill. I don't care what position he was, or that he could have been Lee Iacocca at Chrysler Corporation.
Hey, supposed to be a hell of a defensive club. It didn't look like it to me.
He didn't just pick on a few guys. It didn't make any difference who it was. If it was Bart Starr or Jerry Kramer or Paul Hornung, Max McGee, Carroll Dale, whoever it was. If you didn't perform well, you were told.
We played the Giants, and I got AP Defensive Player of the Week, and I had a great game. And when
I walked into the meeting on Tuesday morning to see the films, and Vince, the way Vince said hello to me, I knew I was in trouble. And I was scared to watch the films. I said, what does the AP know? Vince Lombardi's a real coach.
It wasn't for Lombardi, you know, pushing me like he did. And there was a lot of times when no one else knew, but he'd come up to me and put his hand on my shoulder and say, way to go there. No one else saw it. I know it. I saw it. I felt it. I said, this man likes me, and it's okay for him to push me. It's okay.
I was scared of Vince Lombardi. I was scared of the wrath. I may not have showed it, but I did not want to get chewed out by Vince Lombardi in front of my teammates.
The things that he was saying were those things that reached right into you. You know, and they just kind of grabbed hold. Yeah. They grabbed you, boy. And you could not forget the kinds of things he was saying, at least the essence of it and the intent of it.
He would stand and talk to us during meetings, and he would rarely talk about football. He talked about life and living and conditions and things like that. And I really liked that. You know, I'd be sitting on the end of my chair.
I think what he was saying is that winning is not the only thing, but making the effort to is.
Winning is the only thing is half the quote. The other half is fairly, squarely, decently by the rules. Now, we never hear the fairly, squarely, decently by the rules part of it, and we're criticized for winning is the only thing. Well, winning is the only thing is only half of it, and winning is only half of it.
There's a difference in being a winner. You know, a player and a winner is a difference, and you can see it. And, of course, if you couldn't recognize that in Vince Lombardi, then you were blind, because this guy coached his whole life and never coached a losing season.
I think a lot about something he said, like after a loss we had lost the game, and he said something to the effect that it wasn't in never falling, but in rising, you know, every time you fall. And I had never heard that before. I'm sure it's been said many times by many people, but I hadn't heard that before as a first-year guy in pro football, and that stayed with me, you know, and that's been real meaningful to me in my own life.
He used to say that if you don't succeed here, you're not going to just walk out of football one day and turn it on and succeed in other endeavors. And conversely, if you do it here, you got to feel that somehow you're going to do it the rest of your life.
Well, I will have to say this. Everything I do in business today relates some way back to Lombardi, but I guess the thing that's ingrained in my mind is that if you're 15 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late.
I often think of Lombardi. I put a bank in Texas here about 4 or 5 years ago, and we applied for a charter. They denied the charter, and everybody was involved with me in putting this bank together wanted to quit. And I remember Lombardi said, you know, you don't quit. And I was very determined and went back the second time and just worked that much harder, and we got the application the second time around.
When you draw the picture of a coach, it always seems to be Lombardi. Did you ever notice that? He had something different, you know.
I never really liked him then. I love him so much today. It's unbelievable.
Not fair, Fuzz.
No way.
Not fair that cancer took him that early. Not fair. Not right. Damn, he had so much to offer. So much to give, not only to football, but to management, to business, to the country, to youth, to life. He gave an awful lot, but he had so much more. So much more.
When you hurt so bad, you didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, it was Lombardi's fault. When you were so frustrated, so irritated that you wanted to scream, it was Lombardi's fault. When you wanted to taste the water so bad you could almost cry, it was Lombardi's fault. We knew all that, and we also knew that if we won, if we became a better team, if we became better human beings, stronger and more successful, that was Lombardi's fault too. It was his fault that we won the first Super Bowl.
You know, Vince Lombardi hated the AFL at that time. If you don't know it, I'll tell you now, he would have liked to have won 88-0, would have been ideal for Vince.
I don't ever remember playing a game that I wasn't feeling 100%. This game, I was feeling 100 proof.
Super Bowl I was different, not only for Max McGee, but for every one of us. Coach Lombardi told us that we had no choice. This time, winning was the only thing.
As we prepared during that week out in Santa Barbara, he let us know that under no circumstances were we going to lose that football game, that this was a traditional, old, staid, reputable National Football League, full of tradition, rich in history, going against the upstart, the new kid on the block, so to speak.
Each day, the practice was almost like a game. He'd started off with his pregame talk for the practices. So by the middle of the week, you know, we were ready. You know, we're ready to bust down the doors, and it was a damn shame we didn't play it on Wednesday of that week. The score would have been higher, you know.
So I played the best game I ever did on Wednesday that week in my life. I like to have that on film and show it to my kids.
They met here in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. The Packers and the new kid on the block, the Kansas City Chiefs, the champions of the Young American Football League, and decidedly the underdogs in Super Bowl I, despite the presence of a brash cornerback named Fred Williamson, who promised to attack the Packers with the weapon that had become his nickname, the hammer.
The hammer. To be written as an epitaph on all hotshot flankerbacks, or more descriptively, a blow struck perpendicular to the Earth's latitude, or in theory, running late at night in the dark in somebody's backyard, running into a clothesline, head stops, feet keeps moving. Ouch.
We were all very much aware of the hammer. In fact, we put in a special play for the hammer, that if he got dirty, or really, and it's the only time we've ever given any football player that kind of consideration, that if anything happened, the quarterback and one of the guards was going this way, and the rest of the people were going for the hammer.
I couldn't wait for him to see us in real life.
I was hyped, man. I mean, I was there to hurt, kill. I mean, that's the way I play the game, intimidation. I was there.
Williamson remembers getting up before the game. Max McGee remembers staying up. At the age of 34, after catching only 5 passes all season, McGee saw no good reason to rest his body for the Super Bowl.
I was having a great time because my career was over. I was just basking in the California sun, getting ready to retire, and you know, sneaking out after curfew and going into L.A. to have a little fun once in a while. But
McGee had always been motivated by a fear of failure on the field and a different fear off.
I was scared to death to go to bed at night because I was afraid I'd miss something. Isn't that amazing? But that's the true story of why I couldn't. If I'm in Hollywood, I got to go out and see what's going on.
The night before the Super Bowl, McGee didn't miss anything except the team's curfew.
I'd been out. I'd met a little girl from Chicago, pretty little blonde, and we were getting on pretty good. And I'm watching my watch, and it's 10:30, and it's 11:15.
McGee didn't exactly miss curfew. He went back and observed it by getting into bed with his tie and jacket on and staying under the covers till a coach checked him in. Then he said goodbye to his roommate, Paul Hornung, climbed down the fire escape, and went out to rejoin the blonde and resume the pleasures of life here on the Sunset Strip.
And we went out and kind of did the town, you know, a little dancing, a few beers, and gets pretty late. And anyway, I got in relatively late, something like close to breakfast time.
McGee made it to the Coliseum on time. 40,000 of these 100,000 seats were empty. The Super Bowl wasn't quite so super then, but McGee was in his seat on the bench, talking to Hornung, not really watching the game till...
About the 3rd or 4th play, it seems like. Lombardi says, McGee, in that famous voice, you know, that you hear. And I honestly didn't know he wanted me to play football. I thought for sure he wanted to find me in front of 120 million people.
Lombardi wanted McGee to play. One of the starting wide receivers, Boyd Dowler, had been hurt. McGee didn't exactly sprint onto the field.
The first pass Bart called to me was a little quick turnout, and I turned around, and the ball was on me so quick it hit me in the helmet. You know, it went through my helmet. Bong! I said, "Oh, this is going to be a great day, right?"
It was a great day for McGee, the greatest of his career. The first great moment, a bad pass from Bart Starr.
And I reached back here to catch, to break up an interception. I was so sure that somebody's going to intercept the ball. And when I did, it stuck in my hand. People say that was planned. Hell, that was an accident.
McGee caught the ball and did a little dance all the way to the end zone for the first touchdown in Super Bowl history.
And it was a rotten pass, let's face it. You know, you pay a guy $100,000 to throw to a $25,000 end, you expect him to put it right there.
I got hit just as I threw it, and that's what caused the ball to be a little bit short.
At halftime, despite McGee's accidental heroics, the heavily favored Packers were leading by only 14-10. Williamson had tried his best weapon on McGee.
And he did catch me pretty good, and it kind of moved my helmet around a little bit, you know, but we had heard that he had broken a lot of helmets, and I thought it was kind of funny because, look, so I was having a heck of a day.
Early in the third quarter, Elijah Pitt scored for Green Bay, and Jerry Kramer could sense Kansas City was about to surrender. Kramer set himself to block for the extra point.
It's an opportunity for the defensive tackle to really take a shot at your head, and they normally do. The defensive tackle opposite me on this particular game leaned against me with about that much force and grunted. Oh. I went, what is this?
High school game.
What is this? This game's over.
The game was over. The Packers coasted to a 35-10 victory to a place in football history. Starr was the most valuable player, McGee the most memorable.
I had better days, but never timed them any better.
McGee gained 138 yards on 7 receptions, including 2 touchdowns, the second on a dramatic juggling catch.
Well, the reason I juggled the ball because I'd just been hit, and all at once the ball's there, and I stuck up a hand and accidentally caught it. So really, it wasn't that I was trying to make it look spectacular. It just happened that way.
It was really funny. Made it look a little difficult.
Did you kid him after that one?
Oh, I sure did. I said, don't scare me like that.
McGee wound up a hero, and the hammer wound up hammered. Knocked unconscious when he caught a knee in the face tackling a Green Bay runner.
The hammer! You know who got hurt? The hammer. The hammer! They nailed the hammer. Hey, Slap, the hammer got it!
They got the hammer. They got the hammer. I mean, I think they were more excited about that than scoring a touchdown.
After the game, when Vince Lombardi finally reached the Green Bay locker room, a journeyman player, perhaps the least known of all the Packers, Red Mack, who played only on the kicking teams, the suicide teams, thanked Lombardi for allowing him to be part of the first Super Bowl.
He just put his arm around me, and he said, Red, if you didn't belong here, you wouldn't be here.
We got on the plane the next day, and this was the morning after. And we're riding back, and I looked over, and there was Red Mack sitting in a seat with his face in his hands. And I said, Red, are you all right? And he looked up, and there were tears coming out of his eyes. He said, I'm so happy. He said, I've never been anything like this before.
Red Mack, who had learned to play football in an orphanage, had known the taste of glory when he ran for Notre Dame. But knee surgery cost him his speed, his chance to excel as a pro. After Super Bowl I, after his first and only season as a Packer, Red Mack went home to South Bend, Indiana, and with his wife Jean began raising a beautiful family, feeding and educating 3 sons, one a Notre Dame graduate, one a student at Indiana University, and one still in high school, and occasionally feeding a friend of one of the sons. Red has been working for the Bendix Corporation ever since he gave up football, rising to production control supervisor, a job where he can split his time between a desk and the floor of the factory. Red certainly is no millionaire, not like so many of his teammates, but he is rich in many ways, in friends and family and memories. He has the satisfaction of remembering that he, twice on kickoffs in Super Bowl I, made the tackles for Green Bay.
Stay in your lane. If they show, nail them. And that's what I did.
And he has the satisfaction of wearing a ring that symbolizes victory in Super Bowl I.
Well, a guy offered me a Porsche for that one time, and I didn't trade him. I wouldn't give it up for nothing, for all the money in the world.
Red Mack doesn't need a Porsche. He is one of the world's fortunate people. He goes to work every day happy, without envy, without regrets.
If I knew it was going to happen, I got a bad hip, I got 2 bad knees, I got a bad shoulder. If I knew it was going to happen and I was going to be like I am today, I would do it just like it is. I'd do it all over again. It was well worth it.
2 years after Super Bowl I, Coach Lombardi left Green Bay. And less than 2 years later, he was dead. He died at the age of 57, and his funeral was, in a sense, our first reunion. The first reunion of the men who had won the first Super Bowl. We didn't come together for a happy occasion for another 14 years.
Of course, some of their paths crossed. In the early 1970s, Jerry Kramer produced a motivational film starring Lombardi's people called The Habit of Winning, a film that stressed motivation, enthusiasm, energy, preparation, dedication, excellence, and long sideburns. Willie Davis was building his beer business. Fuzzy Thurston was building his restaurant business. Jimmy Taylor was building his building business. Paul Hornung was running for daylight in a dozen directions. And Henry Jordan was running the Summerfest, transforming an annual Milwaukee Carnival into a major success.
Jerry, one thing I found in business, every successful businessman I've met has a workout program, 4 or 5 times a week.
Henry Jordan had a workout schedule too. He went jogging at the Milwaukee Athletic Club one day, then collapsed and died of a heart attack at the age of 42. Once again, we were drawn together for a sad occasion.
The shock of when he died was as religious of an experience as I've ever had in my life. You know, when Kennedy died, you know, I remember where I was walking into the house, but with Henry, it was just devastating.
How did you hear?
I was in Appleton. Our manager of our office in Milwaukee called and said, "Hey, did you hear Henry Jordan died?" And I hadn't heard. And this happened maybe at 2 or 3 in the afternoon that the call came through, and I couldn't believe it. And I called Henry's house, and nobody was there. Called the radio station that had the announcement on, and actually the announcement went on before I think before all of mine have known. So I jumped in my car and I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's stupid, huh? I get choked up about it.
He was here within, it seemed minutes, but of course it wasn't. It takes a couple hours to drive. And he organized the pallbearers, and anything that I wanted or would have needed, Ron would have been right there. And when Henry's very good friend from college, Don Kovach, came down, Don's a lawyer, and he asked Don, he said, "Is there anything she needs? Does she need any money? Does she need anything at all?" He seemed to look past the moment and into the future for our family. And that was very, I'll never forget that. That was wonderful. And he meant it. And to this day, I know that if I would be in trouble and call Ron, he'd be right there. Right there. I know he would.
Lionel Aldridge played next to Henry Jordan in the defensive line. Lionel went to Henry's funeral, then, later the same year, suffered his first mental breakdown.
You know, I started hearing voices, and I couldn't distinguish what was real anymore. You know, the reality that most people live in daily wasn't working for me anymore. I was hallucinating visually. You know, I could like look up in the air and see all kinds of stuff going on, or like you know, we could be sitting here in this room and I could see other people here, you know, images of other people and stuff like that, and would talk to them.
Ironically, in 1977, the year of Lionel's illness and Henry's death, Bart Starr and Forrest Gregg, 2 of their friends, 2 of their teammates, were elected to the Professional Football Hall of Fame.
I could think of but one person that I should immediately call and share this with, and that was Marie Lombardi.
They were not the last of the 1966 Packers to be elected.
This is a very special occasion because it is the first time my family has ever been together. And I'm truly proud of this moment because it was through football that I learned how to win.
But I can feel happy and feel good because the spirit of my high school coach and Coach Vince Lombardi is within me.
And I played sports and I played football.
and football gave me a chance to express myself.
7 out of 40 of the 1966 Packers were reunited eventually in Canton. But Fuzzy Thurston dreamed of a reunion for everyone.
That makes it good.
It'd be great to have the whole
gang back
whole
at
gang
one time.
one time, wouldn't it?
They brought the whole gang back to Green Bay in the fall of 1984, back to Lombardi Avenue, back to Lambeau Stadium, back to the city sometimes called the football capital of the world, and sometimes called the toilet paper capital of the world. A city relatively small and isolated that helped force upon the Packers the camaraderie and closeness that, nurtured by victory, grew into love. Fuzzy Thurston, more than anyone else, organized the first formal reunion of the first Super Bowl champions, with financial backing from the Packers. And 29 of the 40 players showed up. They came in all sizes and in all shapes. Some with long hair, some with little. Middle-aged men linked by a young man's game. Some of his teammates didn't recognize Red Mack. None could forget Marv Fleming, the first man to play in 5 Super Bowls.
When I went down to Miami, I walked into Coach Shula. I said, Coach, I said, you recognize anything? He says, you lost an earring. I said, this must be the place. I said, I'm home. I said, they didn't appreciate me up there in Green Bay. I love you. Marvin, you come home.
Jim Weatherwax, a defensive lineman, came from California. Steve Wright, an offensive lineman from Florida.
I was in Virginia one time, and a guy said, what kind of boat do you have? I said, don't have one. He said, well, how big a pool do you have? I said, don't have one. He said, you live in Florida, don't have a boat or pool? And I said, no, that's what you have friends for.
Of the players who didn't make it to the reunion, 4 were busy coaching. 3 in the pros, and 1, Bill Curry, the starting center in Super Bowl I, in college at his alma mater, Georgia Tech. 4 others, including Lionel Aldridge, couldn't be found by the reunion committee.
I could not possibly have made that. You know, there was just no way I could have functioned well enough to be there.
One player, Henry Jordan, was dead, and the committee forgot to invite his widow. And a couple just didn't make it, including Paul Hornung, who said he had a broadcasting assignment. Hornung never used to let work get in the way of a good party.
Every time someone new came in, I turned to see if it were Bart Starr. I think we all wondered if Bart was going to show.
Bart Starr became head coach of the Green Bay Packers in 1974 and held the job for 9 years, matching the length of the reign of his coach and mentor, Vince Lombardi. But Starr's record did not match Lombardi's. In his first 3 seasons, Starr's teams lost almost 70% of their games. In his last 3, his teams won more than 50%.
I was not qualified to be the coach. When I came in here, I had a lot to learn. I worked very hard here for 9 years, gave them every ounce of energy that I had, and I was becoming a darn good coach.
10 months before the reunion, just before Christmas, Bart Starr was fired. He was replaced by Forrest Gregg, who used to protect him from tacklers.
I'd never been fired from something before, and it really hurt me. I think if you're slouching on the job and not making the kind of effort necessary, and you got fired, I think that'd be one thing. But when you know that you're giving it your best shot, and circumstances were such that you couldn't control it, you got fired, I think you'd be less than normal if you didn't resent that. And I did, and still do.
Starr thought of skipping the reunion, but, as always, Bart did the right thing.
Emotionally, I didn't know if I could handle it, but the overriding consideration was the players, the teammates, like Jerry. And when I thought about whom I would be with for a reunion like that, then the decision was easy.
Then Kramer, Starr, Robinson, all the 1966 Packers went back to the playing field.
The overweight sucked in their stomachs, the balding patted down stray strands, aching knees were flexed, and as we stood in the darkness of the tunnel that led from the Packer locker room to the natural turf of Lambeau Field, once again we experienced the butterflies and the chills and that adrenaline rush that used to signal the start of every Sunday afternoon.
Olive Jordan Fry, celebrating a daughter's birthday, just happened to be in the crowd.
All of a sudden, I heard this tremendous cheer.
The first cheers were for Henry Jordan and Vince Lombardi. Then, one by one, the men who won Super Bowl I raced onto the field at Green Bay. Some at a leisurely pace. Some at a lively pace. To wear the green and gold one more time.
I just thought that nut. I just hoped he wouldn't have a heart attack. I'll tell you, I was sitting up in the press box with Barbara Gregg and several of the other wives, and we had tears in our eyes. We just, you know, it's kind of a bittersweet feeling seeing them run out like that.
To hear the cheers once again. To be respected once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first Super Bowl team ever.
To smile. To laugh. To giggle. To slap an opposing player one more time. To pose for pictures. To clown. To sign autographs.
At a lot faster, that's why I'm not out there.
To
it
give
makes
interviews.
You realize that the only thing I really missed about football was payday.
To meet the new generation. To kibitz.
I got drafted. My wife asked me, said, where is Green Bay? I said, I don't know. I had to get a map up to find out where it was.
I did too.
To watch two football games, one on the field, one in the mind.
Oh, you better go that way.
To recapture youth. To regret age. To cheer. To remember. And remember. And remember. To remember what was best of all. Not that they once won a Super Bowl, but that they once loved and still did. The festivities didn't end on the football field. The reunion continued at a post-game banquet designed to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club of Green Bay and to raise the spirits of Packer fans who had had no champions to cheer since the Lombardi days. They cheered for Wood and Jeter, for Hart and Robinson, for Nitschke and Donnie Anderson.
I just want to say in behalf of all of those of us that was invited back that we are indeed to be here in what is our second home, believe me. And to be a part of the Packers at any time, I think it's a great experience for all of us. To be for this special occasion is indeed a pleasure. And I just wanted to make sure that each one of you know that somehow in our hearts, even though we might be in different parts of the country, the Green Bay Packers are always within us. Thank you.
One of the features of the evening was an auction, a chance to bid for a memento of the past, for tangible proof that once a team from Green Bay ruled professional football. Bart Starr's jersey inspired brisk bidding, and the jersey went for $500, which pleased the old coach. The new coach, Forrest Gregg, did all right too. Donnie Anderson paid $1,250 to make certain that a Texans jersey drew top dollar. They auctioned off a pair of shoes that had once belonged to Vince Lombardi, and Willie Davis won them with a bid of $250. Willie said he would hang them in his home in Marina del Rey so that every time he walked past them, he would be reminded of the man who had filled the shoes. The banquet was pleasant, but some of the players felt a little like relics on display.
We needed more time to be alone, just the guys, to recapture the sanctuary of the locker room, that place of truth where we stood stripped of our clothes and our facades. We needed less time to be heroes and more time to be ourselves.
The next day, when they scattered in the Wisconsin mist to stage a golf tournament, partly for charity and partly for blood, the Packers were certainly themselves.
Ah, that's it. Feels so good. Where'd it go? Oh, I don't know. Look at that. Oh, beautiful.
Get in there, get in there, get in there!
They lied about their handicaps, of course, and about the last time they played, and dreamed up side bets to test each other's nerves. They also had a chance, between shots, to fill each other in on their victories and defeats in the years since Super Bowl I. Willie Wood, for instance, became the first black head coach in the World Football League and in the Canadian Football League, and then, just like a coach of any color, got fired from both jobs. He was now in the heating and air conditioning business in Washington, D.C., and never wanted to coach again unless he owned the team. Don Chandler, punter and place kicker for Green Bay and for the New York Giants, played in 9 NFL championship games in his 12 NFL seasons, then prospered in real estate in Tulsa, Oklahoma, raised 4 fine children, and retired young. Don wanted to enjoy life. His brother had died of a heart attack at the age of 41. Wide receiver Bob Long, who brought Pizza Huts to Wisconsin and became a pizza millionaire, was now the managing partner of RAL Asset Management Group, an investment firm that was doing $20 million a year in sales. Bart Starr, who used to pass to Bob, now worked for him part-time. Steve Wright, who played with 4 NFL teams after Green Bay, was selling veterinary pharmaceuticals in Florida. Herb Adderley, who was the first man to play in 4 Super Bowls, 2 for Dallas, was in the electrical contracting business in Philadelphia.
As far as I'm concerned, I never played for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm the only guy in the country that has a Dallas Cowboys super ring that doesn't wear it. I don't even look at it.
Ken Bowman, who went to law school while he played for Green Bay, was practicing law in De Pere, the neighboring town. Max McGee was the newlywed of the reunion, married for barely a month, his 3rd marriage, but his first after 20 years as a bachelor. Leroy Caffey was selling real estate in Texas, and he wasn't playing racquetball with Donnie Anderson. Bob Jeter's 2 sons were outstanding basketball prospects in Chicago. Marv Fleming was sometimes an actor. In the Warren Beatty film, Heaven Can Wait, Marvin had one line: "Hey, Mr. Farnsworth, you ever play college football?" Jerry Kramer told his old teammates about the ups and downs of the oil exploration business and about the joys of his 600-acre ranch in Idaho.
We're spread all over the country, and this is the first time that all of us have been able to get back, and it's really fantastic seeing everybody again.
It's better than being enshrined in Hall of Fame. You know, I thought that would be the top feeling for me concerning football. 1980, when I was enshrined with Bob Lilly, Deacon Jones, and Jim Otto, I said, well, this is it. I can't feel any better about football. There's no way. But to come to a gathering like this, it's even better because I'm with the guys that helped me to get there.
It's like being home again. I haven't been out here in 13 years, but there was such a warmth out here and a togetherness that I've never experienced anyplace else.
I tell you, it's a lot of fun because, you know, it's been 20 years since I've seen some of these guys, and it's a heck of a feeling. You know, we had a great thing going there in the 60s, and to come back and see all these guys is a lot of fun.
My first thoughts back to Super Bowl. When I see these guys, a lot of good memories come back. Not just the plays and the different things that happen, but I mean good things like cashing a check and
stuff like that, you know.
While the men played and posed on the golf course, their wives, and in a few cases girlfriends, enjoyed a luncheon and a game of their own.
Everybody was asked to write a question, and then they put the question in a basket, and people picked the different wives picked the question out of the basket, and Jimmy Taylor's wife picked out the question, how old were you when your husband played in the first Super Bowl? And she had to say 5 years old.
They peacefully coexisted at a farewell dinner after the golf tournament, the old wives and the new. Ray Nitschke presided over the awards ceremony, and the big prize for the low group went to Jerry Kramer's team. Kramer was delighted with his prize, but even happier that he had won $200 cash head-to-head from Max McGee. It was the perfect end to an almost perfect weekend. Perfect except for the outcome of the football game.
I wanted the Packers to win. I expected the Packers to win. I figured that any time a bunch of us got together, even if we couldn't play, we should be able to bring them enough luck to win. But I was wrong. I felt bad for the Green Bay Packers, and I felt bad for Forrest Gregg. The week before Super Bowl 20, I turned 50. And the night before the game, I celebrated. Some friends threw a party for me at K. Paul's Louisiana Kitchen in the French Quarter of New Orleans.
The staff at K. Paul's, which just may serve the tastiest food in the world, wanted Kramer to savor a special evening. The menus featuring several choices among the creations of the world-famous Cajun chef, Paul Prudhomme, who presided over the scene. The guests were special too, from the guest of honor to his old Green Bay roommate, to a popular singer, to a presidential candidate, to an actor, agent, athlete. More than 100 people showed up to celebrate the birthday and the cuisine. And they feasted on blackened redfish, on Cajun popcorn, on all the delicacies that measured up to Paul Prudhomme's discerning standards. The food was served up to a hungry crowd, including, standing tall, the old basketball star Bob Pettit, and a young star of the National Football League, the Kansas City kicker, Nick Lowry. Marv Fleming, who was a legend in Green Bay for showing up at teammates' homes at dinner time, still sported his earring and still couldn't pass up a tempting bite. Kramer got a chance to talk oil with Senator Hart. He did a double take when Lombardi walked in, Joe Lombardi, Vince's younger brother. And Jerry talked football with a Chicago Bears fan, Bryant Gumbel, of NBC's Today program.
The party was a lot of fun. Good spicy food and good spicy conversation. I just wish more of the guys could have been there. Max and Paul were in New Orleans with their lovely wives, but I guess they had an early curfew. They both say they have a lot of trouble partying these days, and I believe it. I really do. I have a lot of trouble myself, most of the time. I got the best birthday present a couple of weeks later. I went to Milwaukee, and I saw Lionel Aldridge feeling good.
Lionel Aldridge was feeling good enough, finally, to face and fight the illness that had robbed him of so much, including his Super Bowl ring.
I kept that ring. I was really proud of the fact that I hung on to that ring. I used to take it off my finger at night and put it in my pocket. But then I start thinking, like if I roll over or something, during the night and it falls out of my pocket, Well, I'm in Salt Lake City, and I went to sleep one night and I had it. And there were a lot of people around. There were a lot of people on the street, But we all slept kind of in the same place, in the same area, because there are only so many places in the city that will allow you, to sleep out. And I woke up the next day and I didn't have it, And it was gone.
Lionel Aldridge hit bottom and then remembered Lombardi's words that the greatest triumph is not in never falling, but in rising every time you fall. Lionel rose. He started taking a potent medication, an antidepressant, that would enable him to function.
I got with a doctor who believed in a minimal amount of medication, just enough to keep the voices away and the hallucinations and that sort of thing, but not enough to zombie you out.
Lionel maintained the delicate chemical balance, and after more than 6 months in the post office, felt confident enough to accept a part-time job broadcasting 11 5-minute sports reports every Saturday morning on WTMJ Radio in Milwaukee. Before his illness, Lionel had worked for WTMJ TV and for NBC Sports. He had a magnificent voice, hardly the usual voice cultivated on a tenant farm in Louisiana.
When I was in 6th grade, I loved my grandfather, all the while I was growing up, and I used to try and talk like he talked. And he had no education. So when I was in 6th grade, I left the little farm community that I was in, and we started going to school in a little bit of a town, a little larger town. And I said something in class out loud, and it was so grammatically incorrect that the entire class broke up and started laughing, and they would tease me about it daily. So from that point, I'm never going to let that happen to me again. I started trying to learn how to talk.
Lionel knows now what he wants to do with his voice and his life.
I think I'd like to be back on the air full time.
Lionel would like, too, to replace his Super Bowl ring, the one he lost in the streets, to put it back on his finger, to rejoin his teammates, most of whom wear the rings of Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II so proudly.
Coach Lombardi would be so proud of Lionel for refusing to quit, for rising again, for struggling, and for succeeding. I really think Coach Lombardi would be proud of all of us. And I know that each and every one of us are proud that we played for him. And we're proud of each other. It was a beautiful time, a beautiful moment, even if the kids today do get paid a little more money.
I don't know if they have as much fun as, they couldn't have as much fun as we did. Do you think?
I don't think it's allowed anymore.
But when you're winning, there's a camaraderie that you'll never experience in life, and that's to get 36 or 40 guys together, and you all love each other, and that is created by winning and somebody like Lombardi. If you didn't fit in there, you weren't around there too much, and I think that experience in life is probably worth the other 70 years you live.